Adil Singh Boparai, respond to what the three union ministers are saying, accusing Rahul Gandhi and the Congress of speaking China's language.
Well, first and foremost, Gaurav, at the outset, the Congress party condemns China's belligerence and their repeated attempts which constitute an assault on our sovereignty. Arunachal was, is, and will always remain an integral part of India. Let me make it very clear on behalf of the Congress. The Chinese claims are factually incorrect and have no basis in history. Having said this, now let me make the Congress party's position categorically clear. We stand with India. And today, Indians and our self-respect and our self-dignity is at stake. How can a foreign country claim an integral part to be theirs? In fact, we in the Congress and we in India want the government of India's response to be vociferous and robust. We don't want our government's response to be tepid and meek.
But tell me something, is this the first time, as Kiran Rijiju asked, Union Minister Kiran Rijiju asked, is this the first time China has done this? You've seen the response of the Ministry of External Affairs. Do you find that inadequate?
We find it unbecoming and we find it completely inadequate. And the fact is, these three ministers are nothing more than glorified clerks. Today, the fact of the matter is, why have we had, I ask you this question, Gaurav, why have we had 19 rounds of discussions with the Chinese? Why are we seeking status quo ante? The reason why somebody seeks status quo ante is that the status quo has been disturbed. This is plain English. You and I understand, your viewers understand. That means post-April 2022, the Chinese disturbed the status quo. Okay. It is a matter of fact, and unless and until somebody is wearing a BJP lens, well, I don't want to get into that. But any objective person will agree that the Chinese have made multiple incursions along the LAC.
Let me get Sushant Sareen
to respond to this. There are some BJP sympathizers.
Let's keep this one. Let's take this step by step. You've made a point. Sushant Sareen, is there merit? Is there
we had 19 rounds of talks?
Okay, so you made that point. Sushant Sareen, merit in Rahul Gandhi's criticism and the Congress criticism that the government response is weak. Point one. Point two, restore status quo ante if it hadn't been disturbed. Why have we had 19 rounds of talks? Your take on this as an analyst, sir.
So, I find it difficult to believe when seasoned political leaders talk about there should be a vociferous response. Now, what does Mr. Boparai actually mean by a vociferous response? Should we give maa behan ki gali and that will be a vociferous response? The foreign minister of India, the external affairs minister, has said that this is an absurdity on the part of the Chinese. He said that just because you make a claim on a map does not make that claim true. We have rejected it. We've issued a démarche. What else do you want us to do? That is the diplomatic way of doing things. Unless, of course, you say that, okay, fine, we challenge Xi Jinping to come and have a dangal with us. That is not how diplomacy is done, is it? Is this the first time the Chinese have come out with a map? Now, the problem is that the Chinese have come out with a map which has claims which not just India, other countries are also protesting, and India has protested, and India has rejected those claims. And this is not the first time that the Chinese have claimed either Arunachal or parts of Ladakh as part of their territory. Okay. Right? So, one is that rejection. The second point, which Mr. Boparai says, is partly correct. Yes, the status quo has been disturbed. The status quo has been disturbed in the sense that there were forces which were many kilometers away from the LAC. They have brought their forces much closer to the LAC, in some parts very, very close, and which is why you have an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation. That is a change in the status quo. These are very, very sparsely areas where the deployments were very sparse. Deployments were in reserve areas, in back areas, right?
Okay, let me get General Kulkarni.
The depth areas.
Let me get General Kulkarni.
Taken the forces, 1 second, Gaurav.
Okay.
You've suddenly taken the forces right up to, almost on an eyeball to eyeball, and that has changed the status quo. That is what we are saying, that you need to disengage, you need to de-escalate, and you need to pull back, de-induct your troops. That is the three-stage thing which India has suggested to them. And finally, on the claims of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it is true that that China has occupied thousands of kilometers of territory in Ladakh. But he should also tell us when these thousands of kilometers were occupied. How many thousands or hundreds were occupied in 2013 in Demchok and those areas? How many thousands were occupied in Aksai in the 50s and the 60s? Please tell us all of that.